Hello, and welcome to another episode of Super Pros Bros. I'm Player 2, Eli, and with me as always is...
Player 1, Ike, and, Bro Rogan! Did you know that this pod is on YouTube, SoundCloud, and Spotify? Fuck! Why'd you laugh? I was doing so good!
You started laughing first, you nitwit!
Oh, be curious to see
You
how
didn't even say Joe Brogan, you said Bro Rogan!
Did I really?
Yes!
Oh god. Oh god.
Why this? Of all things! Jesus Christ!
Oh
You're
god,
fucking shambles!
that was amazing.
Alright,
It's
you
like
wanna,
I went
just
swimming. I've got so much tears running on my face.
Yeah, you wanna just fall from the top, try again, or you just...
I can just go from my spot. Your intro is fine.
Okay.
Definitely cutting this out and saving it for later.
Yeah, for sure.
Whew. Player 1, Ike, and Joe Brogan. Did you know that this pod is on YouTube?
I fucking heard it. I heard that little catch in your voice. I was like, come on, stay on target, Isaac.
That was so close. I'm gonna die. Oh god, I can't breathe.
The first try is a charm.
Fucking Jesus. Help me in this hour of need. I know you've got dying kids in Ukraine, but help me say 10 words in a row. Whoa.
Oh, mama. All right.
Oh, God.
Come on, man. You can do it.
When I get you down, you get back up. Is that what it's doing? All right.
Why Sylvester Stallone's like the coffee grounds for auditory resets?
I guess.
Today I learned.
Player 1, Ike, and Pick
a different word.
Fuck, I'm getting through this, goddammit! Fuck! Maybe if I move it over, I had to look away to see what it was, because I know I was gonna say it wrong. God damn it!
Who fucking cares if you say bro Rogan? Just commit. Just make it through the sentence.
I want to shut up. You're not the boss of me.
Take 4.
Fucking goddamn it! Player 1, Ike, and Joe Brogan. Did you know that this pod is on YouTube, SoundCloud, and Spotify?
I did not, Bro Violi. Are those places that they could
Like,
comment,
share.
and subscribe?
It sure is.
I'm so proud of you, buddy.
Woo! You got through it. Speaking of things that weren't so hard for us to get through, what are some, I believe our
What's our topic of the day?
Our topic of the day be the wackiest shows and movies that just worked. I think these are all actually shows now that I look at their list. That's funny.
It's probably, they're all shows. So, to add a little bit of context, this list is largely subjective. Because there is going to be wacky stuff that some people just do not care for, or it's just a bit too outside the norm. But most of these seem to have one fairly common theme. It's they have a very good internal consistency, even if that isn't what you would consider a normal internal consistency.
Yep.
So yeah, go ahead and take us off on your first candidate for wacky crap that just kind of works.
I'm gonna start. We're gonna start tepid and go insane is gonna be my progression line. So the first one on the list. Is this the most tepid one? I don't know if this is.
I think-
These are all insane. Probably the most tepid one, and it's just in the idea of it, is Midnight Gospel. This is a show created by Pendleton Ward and Duncan Trussell. Pendleton Ward is the guy who made Adventure Time, made what's that YouTube show that he made?
Bravest Warriors.
Bravest Warriors. I believe he's also was part of the creation of Adventures of Flapjack. But and then Duncan Trussell is a mystic of a stand-up comedian in that he does a mystifying amount of drugs.
Okay.
The guy has unabashedly said as much in many an interview and is not like weird or nutso for it. He's hilarious, but is very kind of mystical, like sees the world in a very different way. And in this show, you kind of get that impression. The Midnight Gospel, there was season 1 on Netflix. I think they got renewed, but it was Duncan Trussell who took, some of them were from existing podcasts and some of them were recorded after the idea of the show was created, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And it was just a awesome bananas cartoonist in Pendleton Ward and his crew creating a little bit of a show and like visual presentation to go along with the podcast where he's interviewing people, which his character Clancy does in the cartoon as well. But it is it's kind of like watching like a Picasso painting have a discussion. It's just why, like, if you close your eyes, the discussion makes plenty of sense by and large, because it is a podcast that like holds up under most scrutinies that you would hold a podcast under, where they're having an intriguing conversation talking about X, Y, and Z and purple, and all the while this like MC Escher painting is having like an arm wrestling contest in front of you. It's just like, I mean, my ears are hearing normal, but my eyes are seeing like hot fire.
Drugs.
Yeah. But it's by and large, it's just fucking amazing. It's really kind of grounded. Like there is a story that's going on, but by and large, it's who gives a shit. I mean, no offense to the show, but like the heart of it isn't with the plot, although the plot definitely does exist. The heart of it, for me at least, was with the kind of visual, just experimentation that was happening on screen. And like this, Duncan Trussell is a very good, conversationalist and keeps it light, but also goes deep. Like they talk about death, they talk about afterlife, they talk about all this stuff in multiple episodes, and it's still kind of fun and relaxed. So if you want something pseudo calming, I would recommend checking out Midnight Gospel.
Alright, so here's the question. Do I follow the same trajectory you do, or do I go absolute balls to the walls crazy first?
You have my permission to drive the Mommobile or the Roadster. You take your pick.
Alright, then I'm going to hit the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
Let's go!
Because God bless Japan, that place is keeping it weird. And the weirdest shit I've seen to come out of Japan is an old show called Furikuri or FLCL or Fooly Cooly. Pick one.
Fooly Cooly.
Shut up. Wrong. Anyway, it is. If MDMA could be a show, it's this fucking thing. It's bananigans. For so many, it's 6 episodes, right? I'm talking about the original run. The newer run has apparently lost much of its charm and what made it absolutely wild and coconuts. So we're not going to talk about this. Yeah. Talking about the old 2004, or 2000.
Yeah, it was
about a long time ago. Okay. The first episode opens with the main character, Naoda. He ends up with a robot popping out of his head and fighting. That's episode 1. It goes from regular ass kid to I have a robot growing out of my brain fighting for me. Welcome to the show.
And the rest of the world isn't freaked out. I think that is the part that makes it weird.
They're remarkably chill with it.
Yeah, there's
this doesn't happen to everyone, but no one is freaking out that this dude has a hammer thing coming out of his face. And then it turns into a big mech suit that's just kind of attached to his head. And it's brawling. Instead, like corporation comes from the cosmos called like Medical Machinima, and they're chasing down basically this crazy alien god, and so the main pseudo antagonist, kind of, she's weird and doesn't fit in a great spot, is this weird alien investigator bitch named Haruko on a Vespa. Why not? Just why not?
Because, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It just feels like you took Special K and looked at the screen. You can't really understand what's happening.
And we're not talking about the very weight-conscious cereal either.
Yeah. We're talking about the top shelf expensive Special K.
The off-brand, not circulating in your local grocery store.
Yeah, like it's the only thing that I'm realizing, I'm like, what the fuck? Next episode. It's so bonkers.
So why do you think the show works? That's something I forgot to answer, and I will answer right afterwards for my first pick.
Fair enough. First, the reason I think it works is because it commits to how weird it is. It just sort of slams its foot on the gas pedal and just refuses to quit. It never at any point shirks away and just commits and leans in. It's like, now we can get weirder. Watch.
Well, isn't maybe like one of the things I'm coming up with, or that's coming to like the forefront of my cabeza, is that the reason the show might work, or at least maybe worked for me, was that it doesn't like a lot of shows that would take this premise, they would do what we kind of said, where like the audience, or not the audience, the people in the setting would look at the character and go, "You're weird," and then be a fish out of water story. But since they want to like normalize the experience, in quotes, of it being like this, bananas circumstance, they make everybody else fine with it, which kind of like is one of the it's kind of like this metaphorical cornerstone of of which the show like kind of like jumps forth, is this like everything's normal, there's nothing weird.
I think, and part of it too is it's because it's maybe getting too highbrow for the show, but it's like it is a coming of age story. Like now it is 12, or now it is 12, and so it is like
it's all about getting boners.
You can almost make the argument that it's like it kind of leans into the puberty is weird, everything is awkward, but everyone else just like it seems okay for everyone else. Like everyone else just kind of knows, they just kind of nod and go along with it. Maybe, but I think the other big thing that makes it work is it's very stylized.
Yep.
Like, and I think that is something very well done in a lot of wacky animes. It's very stylized. It's very over the top. And it's not like this self-aware, haha, look at us being ridiculous. It's like, no. This is the show. Yeah. We're committed to this.
Yeah, they're committed to it being normal.
Yeah, like, it's not for parody.
Yeah.
It's just for the absurdity we're committing. And because of that it works. I think if it tried to be like sardonic or sarcastic, it would just kind of hate it. It'd have all the wrong tones, it'd have all the wrong dialogue. And instead it's just bonkers.
I think that's going to be kind of one of the through lines. So a lot of these is just that they own their circumstance, and instead of making it like, oh, isn't that weird? They just have everybody kind of roll with it, and then like if you don't accept it's weird, you're going to be the one who's going crazy.
Yeah, you're the odd man out.
Yeah.
Just it's very much one of those shows, this one especially, which is just like, you're in for a wild ride, don't question it too much, just enjoy it and watch to the end. Then you can start. Like, just enjoy. Like, does it hold up to real life scrutiny? God, no.
Yeah.
He's got a machine growing out of his fucking forehead. Of course it doesn't hold up to real life scrutiny.
Yeah. So to backtrack and put on my analyzing goggles for my first pick, Midnight Gospel I think works because of a similar thing of just like, yeah, this is normal. There's nothing weird about it. Like all the characters are kind of just doing their thing. It's got insane nuts of things going on, but it's just never addressed, and we just kind of, I think part of it is also the visual is, while made to like feel like it works with the audio, it is almost kind of its separate medium. It's almost like so for like old shows back in the day, they would like, they would put up visuals on a screen, and have a sound playing out as to like match them, but they were always kind of disparate, and that's kind of this circumstance, but in like much the opposite order. Like back in the day, they used to show, here's this image, and then they would have these like the band would try and play music that would like go with it. Like they would have a literal like band in a pit in like the cinema. And now it's kind of the other way around. It's the audio that makes sense, and it's the visual that's kind of like a maybe distraction sort of kind of ish this thing would ever do. That is like kind of what's happening, and so I think that's part of the reason it works. Is that it's just like they're two kind of disparate things that are just kind of almost like glued together, like the bottom of your shoe and like the chassis that goes around your foot. I guess I don't know shoe terms, but I mean like they like literally you can like separate them. Like they are sewn together. They are two different things that just kind of came together, like the bottom of your shoe and like the top that goes around your foot. They're like there is a sew line that goes all the way around the bottom on a lot of shoes because that's the way they're created. It's like, all right, we created the sole and we created the other part that I don't know what the fuck the name is, sew it together, and that's a shoe. And it's kind of like what's going on here. It's like there's some commonality here. That's like that's the stitching, but by and large, these are two separate things. They're just kind of just happening together. All right. The second round draft pick, Ike chooses Dirk Gently. So Dirk Gently is a awesome fever dream come out by Don't Look at the Who Created It because he's a piece of shit, sadly. But the cast is awesome. I got, Frodo up in this and
Daniel Radcliffe? No.
No, that's Harry Potter.
No, I know. But there's just always running joke that they look the same.
BoJack Horseman, yeah. I really hope they make a show or a movie together at some point. That just like they play with it just a little bit, but they are both like box draws, so that might be a little hard. Anyway, not Daniel. God, why would you fuck me like this? Elijah Wood. Hey, I figured it out, bitch. Shut up. Elijah Wood is I guess he's actually not the titular Dirk Gently, is he? But he is the main character through who we watch the show. And this one kind of just point out its insanity by having a straight man, or mostly straight man, as the main character in Elijah Wood. Scott, what is the name of the character? Not that it matters. But Elijah Wood's character is, living a quasi-normal life, and then the sky doesn't start falling, but everything else starts going bananas. With his meeting
it gets weird very quick.
Titular character Dirk Gently. Yeah, if you can make it through the first episode, you can make it through the season because it does get weirder, but you go from 0 to Scooby-Doo like real fast, and then only like it kind of moves at a relatively progressive like state at that point too, like where it's not so jarring. But this show is amazing. I recommended it like a week or two ago. It's one of my favorites. It's got great music, great acting, great bananas storytelling. But I think the reason this one works compared to the others we've gone through so far isn't because it's, played at normal and, you just kind of accept the circumstance. It is very much played insane, by the Elijah Wood's character being this, everyday guy having to deal with, holy fuck, this shit exists kind of guy. Some of it, I think, is just the writing is perfect. It's it's kind of that like Harry Potter fish out of water growing to understand the circumstance, and I think part of it is just the acting is so amazing. It's like so much of these people are just like becoming their role. They're not acting as if they are like becoming their person. Like the one that's nuts to me is, have you ever seen interviews with the actress who played what's her name?
I'm assuming you mean the assassin?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
She is so gorgeous and so kind of like she almost looks like a alt version of Kristen Stewart a little bit. Like very like traditionally beautiful.
Sure.
Very well composed. And in the show she's this slovenly, doesn't know what a shower is.
Right,
holistic assassin.
Crap.
Yeah, grimy as all hell. Her hair is like matted, and it's like everyone
sounds like she ate a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah. but like, it's so every person is becoming their character. There's very few characters that are, or like actors that are like staying themselves. Elijah Wood, I guess, but again, straight man, that kind of works. Some of these other characters are just like going into who they're supposed to be, and like the acting and the character dynamics was so well written that you just kind of,
the chemistry is very, very good.
yeah, the kind of artifice falls away a little bit, but at the same time it doesn't, because so much of the show is just insane crap. So
yeah,
while it doesn't, you don't fully get like forget that insane stuff's happening. That's also part of its charm, as to a show that I'm sure will later be discussed by my co-host. But yeah, I wonder whichever one I could be talking about. Balls back in your court, hombre.
All right. Well, I'm gonna keep it the same region of the world and back over in Japan. Another hot contender. Not that there's any shortage, but I loved this show, Kill La Kill. Again, Kill La Kill is a fever dream.
Who doesn't love dueling scissors?
Cool. In Kill La Kill, clothes are like alive, kind of. And there's a lot of shit that goes in with it. There's a lot of weird shit that goes in with it. Clothes are like power armor, basically. But they're just regular clothes. Or are they? You don't fucking know. The main character, Ryuko, walks around in, like, a sailor uniform that is sentient. It has wants and needs. It also turns into, like, the most I can't believe this isn't porn attire thing ever when she goes to fight. It's like something you'd wear at a burlesque show if burlesque dancers wore things that resembled suspenders with giant fucking shoulder pads. She uses half a scissor blade as a weapon. It's outstanding. It is awesome. You're gonna need some fucking Dramamine for some of the whiplash, though.
If you are prone to having seizures, do not watch the show.
Do not watch it. We'll kill you. It is, yeah. Why do I think it works? It is a surprisingly good story. Like it is a remarkably coherent story that it puts together over the course of the show.
It's very Shakespearean.
Yeah, and it has hilarious fucking side characters. Like, is her name Mako? I think.
Are you talking about the person she lives with?
Yeah, the girl. Yes,
yeah.
Mako. Mako's a goddamn gem. She's
also
just
the most normal
best
character in the show by a mile.
Yeah, she's like weirdly normal, but there's so many times, and again, just like FL Seal, it is such an awesome sense of style, and it keeps doing this thing with Mako, for example, where she'll like go on a fucking tirade, oftentimes in defense of Ryuko. And so it, like, cuts everything that's happening, and it just shows her alone with, like, a spotlight. Like, suddenly she's on fucking stage, and she just goes through this crazy rant and does these bizarre pantomime, like, over-the-top, like, hand gestures to emphasize her argument. It happens, like, half a dozen times throughout the show.
That's all? Bizarre. I thought I would have taken the over on that.
Easily a dozen. I don't know. It's been a while.
A lot.
It's one of those things where it's just like, it's a bizarre thing to do, but they keep to it. Yeah, it's wild. The voice acting is really good, at least the Japanese, because I always go subbed, not dubbed. Get at me. And it's just so much fun, and it's so goofy and over the top. It's hard not to just have a good time with the ride, and it's got a pretty decent story to go behind it, and some fairly good characters with, like, decent character growth, too, which is kind of surprising for just how nuts to butts the show looks. So yeah, that is 100% my other vote for, like, wow, this is fucking bizarre. This is great. Give me more of it, please.
Well, I'll keep running with that last bit of give me more of it, because I really wish they would have. I guess they did, but they didn't. Anyway, that's a discussion for another time.
The show ends very firmly.
It does. So we're talking about Adventure Time before we just start talking to the void. Yeah. But no, I was talking about how I would love more Adventure Time, except the stuff that they have made does not feel like Adventure Time to me. It feels like yeah. Anyway, that's a discussion for another time. My Ike's third round draft pick is Adventure Time. I don't know if that'll parse. Adventure Time is definitely my bay of animation. Loved it for its whole entire 10-year run. Couldn't get enough of it. Ended amazingly. And it's still like one of the shows that I will watch for a cheap laugh and also watch for a good cry, because it somehow, like many great shows before it and after it, just knows how to do both. Just nuts.
Yeah.
So earlier we talked about Pendleton Ward with Midnight Gospel. I think this was like one of his first kind of breakout things, and where he really made himself known to the world as being one of the most awesome insaniacs this world has to offer, especially in the animation field.
Yeah.
So the show predominantly follows the two main characters of Finn the Human and Jake the Dog in this dystopian parallel timeline of Earth. Well, it's weird, right? Because it's like dystopian.
Not dystopian. Post-apocalyptic.
Post-apocalyptic. Okay, yeah. I was going to say dystopian doesn't quite feel right, because it isn't like it has the right objects but not the right tone. So yeah, it is a G-rated cartoon that was on Cartoon Network for a decade, and now has a little bit of life with some like hour-long specialty thingies on HBO. So the show is weird as fuck in its setting and just in the way the shows are made, because it doesn't, much to my co-host chagrin, it doesn't follow a typical storyline. It doesn't go A to B. Each episode is kind of, generally speaking, a moment out of time. And so that's the first kind of disarming what the fuck is going on, because you could watch an episode from season 5 and an episode from season 1, still get, like, without, kind of ruining any moments. Like, it wouldn't, like, oh no, I'm watching them out of order. That probably wouldn't end up mattering a decent amount of the time, because it's
not much, no.
Much more of like kind of like a character study, and just kind of, it does what another somebody that will be talked about later, Hiro Murai, loves it, called non-linear storytelling, and like especially for like a TV show medium where you show stuff probably in order but possibly out of order, and it doesn't really matter, because it's so much more, the story is almost just getting to know the characters more than it is seeing where they're going to go. So much of the story is just about kind of people, circumstance, feeling. And so in that way, I think for a lot of people it felt weird. Also, in the setting and in the way they handle a lot of stuff, because where it is a show that was on a kids network, it wasn't made with those like, oh, gotta protect the children, kids gloves. It very much fostered that idea of anything's possible, think outside your head, but also this shit's weird and funny. All going at the same time.
Still nightmare fuel.
Lich is still nightmare fuel, for sure. It does follow a lot of D&D kind of paradigms of just, monsters and stuff like that, but not in like not in an old school setting. I would highly recommend just watching the show, because trying to explain it, I'm hearing myself sound like an insane person that makes no sense.
A little bit.
It's really hard to kind of quantify what the show is and why it works. So I think part of why it works is like something we've talked about, has a very clear sense of style. All of the shows we've talked about, I haven't mentioned it, but Dirk Gently has a very immaculate sense of style. Midnight Gospel, same with Adventure Time, made by Pendleton Ward, very stylish. Nutter Butters kind of, he's like the American, who's the guy that made Watchmen?
Alan Moore?
Yeah. He's like the American Alan Moore. He looks like a druid. He looks like he just fell out of a hollow tree.
Does, yeah.
Like, they're both insane looking and insanely smart, and both left the game at differing times because they were fed up with like the Hollywood media machine under any other name. Like, Pendleton Ward is crushing it, has this great show, and I think he stepped away in like somewhere between season 2 and 4. He's like, I'm done, I'm out, I'm over this. And it was like, wait, what? Like, so many people are going to stay on that ride until it's done. And he was like, nah, it's like somewhere between, it's not going where I want, I'm not getting the creativity that I'd like to, and or I'm just kind of done with it. I don't quite remember what the logic was, but it was like very much just, he wasn't ousted, he decided to leave. Yeah, same thing like Alan Moore, with like a lot of projects and stuff like that. He's like, nah, and just like walked off. People were like, wait, what? Like this prodigious, writer, creator. So it's like, yeah, I don't like the way it's like, have that Dave Chappelle going to Africa moment where it's like, holy fuck, I didn't know you could say no to, tens of millions of dollars. Like, yeah, you can. You can just say peace, bitch, and fucking leave. And that's what all those guys have done differing times for differing reasons. But it's like, sign for me of a true creative. Any which way. The reason the show works not only a sense of style, its writing kind of is so original in like the way it's composed and the way what it's talking about. Having a kids TV show that I can watch with a 5-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 30-year-old, and a 50-year-old talking about death, having them get slightly different shades of the same thing while also being engaged is just great art to me.
Yeah. There's also something about it that it does something the others don't. It does not have a great set of it doesn't have a set of rules it necessarily plays by.
No, it's got like a vague feeling of what you think should and shouldn't exist, just given upon the way the characters interact. But like, for so much of the show, you're like, okay, for sure, like, this is real, this isn't real. No, it's not, and they show it. But it's the way in which stuff is presented, not necessarily what is presented, which makes it make sense, I guess, for me. Because this is very much a, futuristic sandbox of a circumstance. Yeah. Where, you've got magic, you've got super far-reaching science, but also a bunch of different life forms and shit like that. It is wild.
It's absolutely bonkers. And because it is so bonkers, you don't necessarily know what they're willing to play with.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of the fun intrigue for the show, is just anything is up for grabs.
Yeah. When the only rules are that of emotion and like storytelling and not of like where the ceiling is. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like nice. And like part of it is that like, again, it's like we've talked about this with comedy. It's like to a certain extent, this show wrote itself out of the problem of like realizing power ceilings. Like one of the biggest problems, and I think it was like Giga wrote and had an episode about this, was doing power ceilings for anime, because it's like, well, you want to go further, you want to go beyond, and then like creating a power ceiling, you usually end up having to be a hypocrite to your own creation and stepping beyond that. This show knew early on, it's like, look, this show isn't about realism in any kind of way, so it doesn't matter if a character can do one thing one episode and another thing another, as long as it feels right. And that's so much of what the show is going on, is just like, look, it's all about character growth and all about, it's kind of like a character study. And so it doesn't, like, the plot matters a little bit less. And then the realism, the fighting circumstances and the circumstances in general matter like even less. So by like setting up that rule paradigm and knowing like where your kind of corners are of like staying true to your characters, which I think is just always a good rule in general. And then not worrying about like, physics and fight circumstances, because that's not what the show is about, allows you so much freedom. Basically having instead of having a ceiling, it just is an open air tent, and you can just go wherever the fuck you want, assuming that you follow the right channels. Speaking of channels and Cartoon Network,
coming back west, the closest thing to a horror show that is not a horror show, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Oh dear Jesus. If you've never seen the show,
don't. Sorry.
It follows an elderly couple who live in the middle of nowhere, with their pink-furred dog Courage, who, as the name implies, is kind of terrified of everything. And every episode is this bizarre episodic thing that are just these bizarre, like, self-contained episodes where it's like a monster of the week kind of thing. It has some oddball shit.
It reminds me of if they took Through the Scary Door from Futurama, made it a show, but had to have a consistent main cast, That's how you end up with Courage the Cowardly Dog.
That's how. Yeah. No, I love that description. The first episode I ever saw scared the shit out of me. I was like 11, and I still remember who I saw it with. Like, I remember sleeping over at Aaron's house
and peeing on him because I was so terrified.
So the episode I watched. Here's the quick context. You're being visited by Cousin Fred because he's out of the asylum now. He broke out, and Cousin Fred is this ghoul of a human being who's constantly smiling, and has this weird obsession with hair. And so much of the narration of the episode is him just talking over and talking about like people he saw, and he wanted to be naughty, and so it just keeps showing pictures of him shaving people. It's so creepy. It's just weirdly unsettling, and he ends up like locking Courage in the bathroom with him, and Eustace and Meredith are useless. They're wonderful. They're Meredith's charming. Eustace is just an old crotchety jackass consistently, and like never accepts that anything is real, and it's just, you're just imagining stuff, and that's not that big a problem. But they're just useless. Like, Courage has to do everything despite being terrified of everything. And so they just think that they're locked in the bathroom and they're getting along. It's wonderful. And meanwhile, Courage is terrified because this guy's got a razor and just like beckons at him like, come on now. Because he's feeling naughty. Nightmares. The show is like somehow PG-rated nightmare fuel.
Well, it's doing that kind of like dance around, right? Because it's not ever showing anything graphic.
No, it's not showing like gore.
It's being funny.
It's no death.
Yeah. There's no like blood or anything like that. And so it's like, how do you quantify fear as a rating, impetus?
Yeah, but it is the closest thing to like a kid's horror cartoon that exists, I think. And it's so bizarre, and it is outlandish because it doesn't just stick to like your weird typical monsters. Like there is
your weird typical monsters don't want to shave you.
Yeah, well, I mean, shit. There's another episode like where Meredith gets kidnapped because she gets put to like this hair farm where she's forced to grow out her hair so they can cut it and make wigs out of it. Nah, it's weird. It goes some places like. You cannot predict the fucking wackadoodle shit you're getting into when you start an episode. You're like, I have no idea what I've been for, but I'm here for it. Courage is going to freak out at something. Let's go. Aliens, mummies, crazy telekinetic cats. You don't know. You just don't. So it does take that, monster week kind of cliche, and it goes to weird places with it, and does keep that kind of PG rating slapped on the front, and it's some really good like tongue-in-cheek adult humor from Eustace and Meredith, which is pretty good. So it's bizarre and terrifying. Like I can't believe Cartoon Network ever bought that show. Just look up a picture of Cousin Fred. Like just do it.
That's great.
Hold on. I need to terrifying.
Look up Cousin Fred. Courage. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, no, see? Nightmare fuel.
That smile's bigger than his head.
I know. It's terrifying.
Jesus. All right.
And now just imagine the word naughty coming from
that
him.
low a voice, too, from such a character. The character looks like he should have, like, somehow a higher and lower pitched voice.
He talks in like, it almost sounds like he's narrating a Dr. Seuss book.
Dulcet tones.
Yeah. It's just creepy. Anyway, what is your fourth man on your roster?
Fourth man on our roster, I'm not sure. I couldn't decide if it was supposed to be the first or the last, so I went with last, and I think it might be a mistake. Either way, still bananas. Might be the least bananas, but bananas nonetheless. Danger 5 is a... kind of feels like like those 80s blank exploitation films, except it is like, what I'm talking about? Like there's like black blaxploitation movies,
Mm-hmm.
like stuff like that, but for different genres. It has that kind of like low cheap, like kind of avant-garde vibe to it,
Mm-hmm.
but it like was made intentionally that way. So don't know if loses or gains points, but is very self-aware, and that's like part of the fun. But at the same time, it's still so crazy. I really can't. I'm trying to think how else I can explain it. So the cast is for this like spy op, like NATO spy op group called Danger 5. Very shot either cheap or meant to look cheap as shit.
Sure.
And like, I mean, I think it's in the first episode. Or it's in the first season for sure. There's an episode where, and you've probably seen this as a meme. Somebody picks up a phone, shoots into the receiver, and kills the person on the other end. Like, that's the kind of hijinkery we're dealing with here.
Okay, I dig it.
It's like so, like the rules, like very much like Adventure Time, just kind of get made up occasionally because fuck it, this would be funny. And like that's another one of those things that is kind of paramount in this show. It's just like it's all about being funny. It doesn't like the rest of the things don't really matter, and so just like the ground on which you stand is always shifting to kind of just throw you off expectation. The first episode is called "I Danced for Hitler," I think. And like it's set in quotes during World War II. The puppet nonsense that happens in the show is like amazing. I think there's like a character that's like a like the German shepherds that they have are like puppets and shit like that. It's just nuts. It's all it is. And I think the reason it works is because one, it's a comedy, and so like you kind of get away with some stuff. Yeah, you can get away with that shit. And two, it's just like so aware that like that's kind of the joke. I'm really starting to realize this should have been the first pick on my part. My bad. Bit of a left turn there, but yeah, it just knows where it is and kind of like what it's driving for. It's like a product that knew its exact audience and marketed itself correctly. Like that's like the trick is just like, okay, who are we making this for? Okay. And then just like looked only at the goal line and just like full throttle that direction. And that's just kind of
drive.
Yeah. It's like when you like kind of ascertain what specific focus group you're like kind of locked on and everything else doesn't matter, you really do get to dial up your product. Like the minute you have to try to hit like the larger market, the more you have to kind of like play it safe, right? It's kind of like a joke. The more diverse your friend group, the more tame a joke, generally speaking, is going to have to be. And so when you know exactly who the joke is going for, and it's a very slim slice of the pie, you get to do whatever you want.
Yeah,
because
go full 100.
Yeah, there's no inhibitors. Speaking of no inhibitions, what's the last show you've got?
Now, I'm going to preface this with saying, normally, I despise time travel. Normally. But Doctor Who is anything but fucking normal. The show is unapologetically bizarre, and it knows it. And so it just kind of says, rules out the window, let's have some fun. And to a degree, I like that. I like that it doesn't try to really hard rationalize a lot of its kind of hinky-dinky science. It's just, the TARDIS is basically a plot device that gets you where you want to go, and at times you can up the stakes by compromising it.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the show is not necessarily about time travel. It's just kind of these self-contained stories about, let's go take a look at fucking X and see what's going on here. And that ranges from, let's go take a look at what the Vikings are fucking doing in the 1300s to what's happening on Mars in the year 3500. Fuck it. And everything's on the table. So you have you'll have episodes back to back where it's like, we went and talked to Shakespeare, and then the next episode, we're on the moon. Because, fuck it. And the best part about the show is, I think there's two wonderful things they did that keep the show very fresh, and in some ways kind of eternal. And the first off is the writing out they gave themselves for making new doctors with regeneration, which is brilliant.
Yeah, being able to giving yourself recastability is like really smart at the very least, and like
And the more importantly, they make a point to mention that no two doctors are the same person. They have the same memories, but they're not the same person anymore.
mm-hmm.
Like, they address it. They don't have the same quirks. They don't have the same likes, the same dislikes. They're not even necessarily the same gender. Like, when David Tennant fades and Matt Smith takes over, he's like, am I a girl? And he, like, grabs him and is like, no, damn it, still not a woman. I'll eventually get it. Like, he's disappointed that he hasn't gotten a shot at being a woman yet. And to be fair, there is another Time Lord in the show who shows up once as a woman when you're used to seeing him as a guy.
I mean, also isn't like one of the more recent.
Yeah, the newest Doctor. I'm quite a ways behind on it because I moved and stopped watching things. But yes, there's a woman who is playing Doctor Who. And they do such a good job hinting at so many background things for a long time. Like, you don't, because the Doctor, despite being the main character, you know almost nothing about them for so long. Like, especially when it had the kind of modern reboot in like 2002 or something, when it started with Christopher Eccleston and then David Tennant and then Matt Smith. You don't really know who the Doctor is. Like, you know he goes and does shit, but he makes all these allusions to things that have happened, and you just don't get context. And so you get, I think what the show does so well, is you get drip-fed these little bits of insight to who he actually is. And it does such a good job at teasing little things. And you get to see it because the human insert is the companion, who also changes pretty regularly, because some companions are just like, I've seen enough and I want to go be a regular person again, or something happens and they sub out, so to speak. And that's another way they keep the show very, very fresh, is they constantly introduce a new person for chemistry, and they come with their own baggage, their own backstory, their own motivations. And some of them do dumb, selfish crap because, like, holy shit, I have a time machine at my fingertips. And some people are terrified because they have a time machine at their fingertips. And so it introduces so many fun dichotomies that can exist. And they can exist in any bizarre fucking location you want to make up or has existed.
Yeah.
They get to choose. So there's kind of no holds barred on where you want to go. It's just sort of a what if. And any what if is available.
I think that's one of the interesting through lines, or like kind of, Doctor Who is one of your favorite shows and Adventure Time is one of mine. And that is a through line for both of them, is that you learn about the characters through circumstances. They don't just tell you about them. Yeah. Like, you don't learn, the things you learn about the Doctor are from circumstances happening or things being revealed. It's not like you know this character and then you follow them on this ride. It's like you follow this character you don't really know, and through the ride you learn more about them. Like, it's not the journey, it's not the destination that matters, it's the journey that you're on. They're not shooting for this, like in Adventure Time, a lot of the time they're just existing. They're doing a thing for an episode, and you learn characteristics that stay true about that character through their existence. And same thing in Doctor Who, it sounds like, if I'm understanding you correctly from the little that I've watched and you've talked to me about, is that it's what happens in each episode doesn't usually have long-standing relevance. Sometimes it does, a lot of the times it doesn't, and that it's more about the journey than it is about like where they're headed, like, because they're not headed anywhere in particular.
Yeah, the only way that has any kind of through line is between the companion and the Doctor. Yeah. And how their relationship is. That's really the only lasting consequences, because he's a time traveler. And people even make a note of that. Like, you just show up, blow shit up, and leave, and you don't clean it up. Like, some people regard him as a monster because he's done some shit, and he's just like pieced out, no consequences, because he has a spaceship time machine. He can just go wherever, whenever he fucking wants. Like, and he does so willy-nilly. And so you don't think about the fact that it's like, oh yeah, he's 3,000 years old. He's done some stuff. Like, he's super old. they also, I think my favorite jokes out of the show is when people learn his name, like, you look human, and he's like, you look Time Lord. We came first.
You look Time Lord. That's so great.
Yeah, like it also just has it's good, quippy British writing, and I think from one of the modern Roman I've watched, just a fair amount. I watched like 6 seasons of it. It's pretty good writing. It's got good quippy, some good slapstick humor, some really good dramatic through lines. I still get goosebumps at the end of David Tennant's run.
Oh yeah.
Just him looking up, going, I don't want to go. And he knows he's not dying. He just knows that version of him is. It's like, oh fuck! I just got goosebumps saying it. Damn it.
Well, I mean, part of the reason, and it's so pure, and one of the kind of like fun little tidbits about this show is that David Tennant, before he was a doctor, was one of the biggest Doctor Who fans. Full stop. Like, I believe the reason he's married to who he's married to is initially because that is a past doctor's daughter in real life. And so he was kind of like enamored based on that. And then I'm hoping anyway that like it was
hit
like,
it off native. Like,
yeah.
actually.
And that he's not just like, I need to be around another doctor, but like he literally is just like infatuated. He is a lover of the show. And part of his breathtaking, moment was he imbued that with himself. It's like he really didn't want to leave. This was the most fun he'd ever had. This was the role that he'd wanted more than any other role he's had before or since. And it meant a lot to him. And so it was just sad for him to go. He didn't want to stop being the doctor, but he knew it was time. Mostly, his exits or whatever. But it was just so pure is that he, like in that moment, he really allowed himself to come through that character and just say what he was feeling and be who he was.
Yeah. It's also just David Tennant is phenomenal, regardless of what he's in. God bless that man.
Gem of a human being.
Dude's a legend. Yeah. All right, I think we have reached the end of our bizarre and crazy list.
Shall we sum it up before we go to break? Because it seems like there's a couple through lines here. Got like understanding of circumstance and audience,
committing to whatever bit you've got going on, and not trying to be sarcastic or disingenuous about it.
Yeah, unless that is the bit. In
sure,
Danger
but in which case
case,
you're still committing to the bit.
Yeah. If always see rule 1. It's definitely looking through all these. It's a adventurous sense of style. Each one of these is very much aware of what it is, and like all gas, no brakes, headed in that direction.
Yep.
A lot of these are about character, not about that. Like,
they have good characters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like FLCL,
easy to relate to and root for.
Well, not only that, but FLCL, Midnight Gospel, Adventure Time, Courage to a lesser extent, Danger 5 to a lesser extent, and Doctor Who, it's more about character relations than it is about reaching a goalpost. Kill la Kill and Dirk Gently follow a fairly narrative structure, although there is some twists and turns. So that one's Kill la Kill's a little bit less about character. Dirk Gently has a fair amount of like character stuff going on there.
Sure.
But by and large, it's about the interactions and the kind of moments that show our humanity of interacting with each other. So much of that, Gospel, FLCL, Adventure Time, and Doctor Who, that is the cornerstone of those shows, is the characters getting to shine through in the moment, not the moment getting to shine through the character.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll head to our first ad break and see y'all in a bit. This podcast is brought to you by Historical Epics. Do you find yourself lacking tawdry tidbits when you're at your local dinner soiree, but also lacking the time or reading level to be bothered by picking up your local Encyclopedia Britannica, or the financial wherewithal to afford the History Channel? Sounds like you're in need of Historical Epics. With the 1 to 4 hour runtime, Historical Epics will have you knowing 67% of potentially accurate factoids in no time. Need to know the plight of white people as they devastated the American Plains natives? We've got you covered. Or when one shade of white person tried to kill all of another shade of white person? Yep, got that too. How about when all but one white person treated all the black people like crap And then that virtuous messiah figure saved them from the bad ones. No, not that one. Not that one either. Or that one. Oh, yeah, that's the one. So stop by your local library and rent a movie with a lead actor desperately attempting to get that flaxen phallic figurine and be the shining light of brilliance at your next dinner gala.
And welcome back. So, Ike, what do you have as your pitch of the week?
I've been putting this one off for a while because I wanted to get it right, but that doesn't exist, so I should just do it. There's this do it. There's this principle that I was taught at university when going to, for lack of a better term, film school, and it's that nothing is ever finished. It is only due. And that, like, art can be, molded, scraped, cut, chiseled indefinitely. It's kind of like a bonsai tree. You're never done with a bonsai tree. You're just maintaining it. And so I guess it's the time to shine. So I've been working on, I want to say I've been having this idea in my head for close to a decade now, off and on, going through different, like, kind of slow modulations and changes. And it's something that I esteem to start putting to paper more and more as this year continues. It's called Magician's Academy is the working title. So the story starts off, you're in it's a like but not like 80s USA. Except it's not planet Earth specifically. It's like planet Earth adjacent because there's a couple different things that have to happen. Beta. Yeah, Earth Beta. Yeah. So it follows a class, like a science class as they get in. It's a very kind of not a bad part of town, but a definitely broke part of town in this like Rome-esque city-state, or it's this huge city, and it's the kind of like shoddier, less appreciated, poor part of town. And they're at the science class, and they're signing forms and getting notified, hey, you got to meet back up here. We're going to go on this like late night field trip, literally into a field, and talking about a certain type of bug or something like that. I don't remember what they're exactly there. It doesn't really fucking matter. So they go there with it's actually a substitute teacher. And they're like, oh, that's weird. Okay, whatever. He's like, yeah, sorry, he wasn't feeling good. Whatever. And so they go out. He's showing them the bugs, where they live and all that. And while they're out there, they get crop dusted, or what they think is crop dusted. And they're like, oh, cover up your mouth. Oh, no. Bah. They wake up in the morning to find that they all have been augmented, basically with superpowers overnight from this seemingly chemtrail, but they don't know that. So a lot of them, being from, the kind of poor part of town, realize that something's amiss. They know that, shit ain't to be trusted. And so if something like this happened, something ain't right. And so they, instead of like doing the kind of classic, oh, just go to school and it'll be fine, and then it comes out at school and I have to leave, they're just like, I'm not going to school, something's up. And they end up meeting and getting into contact with some of the other people and kind of bugging out and just like dipping and like going out somewhere that, kids with no money and no resources would kind of hang, like some like broken down factory or something like that. And they kind of talk through the circumstance. And a couple of them do not end up getting there, and they find out that they got like picked up. And it turns out that later on in the series that the government actually, it wasn't a crop dusting. It was like they were experimented on. This government found this new kind of stuff, and they can't legally put it on somebody, but they can, oh no, pour it over a field. We were going to see what happened to like livestock or whatever. We got permission for this, and these kids were accidentally out here, and this is kind of set up. Yeah. The idea of this show is kind of, so many shows that have mutants or superpowers, either it's like, there's been a lot of exploration with like The Boys, for instance, into, okay, what if superpowers were created by a big corporation? What would happen then? You know, like how would that just kind of work its way into our society? What would happen to our society? What would happen to superheroes? What would happen to business? All this, so on and so forth. And they explore it very well in that show. But one of the ideas of the show, to me at least, and maybe this is like an older way of thinking, as if the government had power as opposed to organizations. But this is why it's like set in like the quasi 80s, is that the government is wanting to experiment with this new thing and see what it does and how they would go about doing that, like legally in like certain circumstances, and like the fallout from there. And so it would be an exploration of like, they have this a little bit time to time, depending upon which arc you're looking at in X-Men, where the government is like anti-mutant, and so it's government versus mutants. You know, what happens then? Which was very much a parallel to the government against gays in like the 70s and 60s and for the bazillion years before that. Because Stan Lee spoke out about as much, R.I.P. Stan Lee, spoke about as much in that was one of the main tenets of creating X-Men, was for the LGBTQ movement and also for the civil rights movement, of this other being viewed as negative when they haven't done anything, but they're different. And like kind of dialing it up in that way.
Yeah.
So this one would be looking at the kind of paranoia around like big government, and like if the government actually did do this, like if, you know, kids got superpowers, for instance, whether it's
what
the government creation.
They do?
Well, not only like what else will they do, but like initially it was, okay, kids have superpowers, now what? But I wanted to kind of like amp it up a little bit and like make it about what the government would do to get superpowers. But if they gave out superpowers, or if kids got superpowers, do you think the government would be like, hey, let's chat? Or do you think they would black bag them and fucking disappear the shit out of them?
Because to the black side we go.
Yeah, it's like if most any government on the planet Earth currently had the potential access to like have a weapon that no other country had,
yeah,
they would do it at most cost to human life, is my interpretation of the circumstance that we currently live in. So just kind of playing with that idea of like, yeah, but like, what would they actually do? And kind of going deeper and darker down that fun tunnel. No, it's the rough equation for Magician's Academy so far. What about you? What you've been burbling on?
I've had an odd, long-standing idea that I don't know what a name for other than the imp on my shoulder.
Mm.
And the idea is that you'd be following Evan, and Evan wakes up one day and realizes there is an imp in his room. Little cackling, gross demon thing that just kind of follows him around. And he can't make it go away, no matter what he says to it. And it just kind of says some bizarre, often negative things to him. Just kind of gnawing at him.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else in his life seems very, very sad. And he can't quite figure out why. And every time he tries to remember, and tries to dig back, he keeps getting distracted by the stupid imp on his shoulder. His parents, seeming distressed at... And he feels out of the loop. And his parents know that something isn't right with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't tell them there's an imp on my shoulder because, well, they'll think he's absolutely psychotic. And they already seem pretty depressed, so he doesn't want to add any extra weight onto that. And so they end up sending him to a therapist to try and help talk him this out. My thought is to do a number of small sessions with a therapist as he slowly unpacks why there's an imp on his shoulder, because he comes to start understanding that it's probably something internal. There's no actual demon there. It's something his brain is conjuring. But why? It's because he watched his brother die in a car wreck. And he can't deal with it.
Mm.
And despite seeing everyone else being sad, he has buried remembrance that he had a sibling.
Mm. Wow.
It's super melancholy.
Yeah, I was going to say, thanks, bud. I'm feeling better already.
Yeah. It's
a really cool idea, though, of like the way you're talking about presenting it. That's really dope. I'm assuming also you get to do kind of like, you have the fun but arduous process of writing dialogue that is duplicitous in meaning,
Yeah.
meaning like they're talking about his brother and he hears it differently, or like they're
He can't understand why they'd be saying this.
yeah. Well,
Like,
no,
it
but not only
who's-
that, but like you get one of the coolest things is like if you go back and watch like Fight Club or any movie where there's like a kind of person there that's not there, or I think A Beautiful Mind, there's a lot of scenes that are written in a way that that aren't jarring, they don't stick out, but then upon rewatching, when you realize this like huge reveal, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like
makes
I
sense
understood
why
yeah.
Marla seems kind of mood swingy.
Yeah, or you know, like, oh, like I always thought, like, you know, it made sense this way, but now rewatching it, oh, it means this, and like having ambiguity of dialogue is like one of the coolest and most hard things to do in these situations.
Yeah.
But like the payoff is like gigantic. So it sounds like you've put yourself in an awesome circumstance in that regard.
It is something I tried to write, I don't know, 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just could not hack it. I just did not have.
It's a rough one. Yeah.
I was just like, I tried to be like, this is garbage. I can't do it. Throw it away. But I've had the idea for a long time.
Well, and I think this is a good lesson to like learn in this moment is one, never fucking throw anything away.
I threw away that first draft. It needed to be trash canned.
Okay.
Kept the idea. Did not keep the draft.
Okay. Yeah. There's this writing thing I remember reading about or watching a video about, and a lot of really good writers, at least for TV anyway, or like movies, they'll write something and then they'll set it down because like they don't try to force themselves to write something. That obviously you make yourself sit down and write, which for some of us difficult, for others it's easy depending upon the day or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you don't force anything, and you just kind of, sometimes stuff needs to sit. Some of the best ideas, I think, what was it? There was I was watching something recently. Oh yeah. One of Quentin Tarantino's later movies, he wrote really early on in his career, and it like was effectively on a shelf in like purgatory for a while because he like just didn't come back to it for a while. I want to say it was either like maybe it was Kill Bill, maybe it was Hateful Eight, I don't remember. Or no, I think it was Django? I don't know. There's a thing recently I was watching, it was like he had this on his shelf for a while before he got around to like finishing it and like trying to get it made, like let alone having it actually be made. So like sometimes stuff needs to percolate either in you or for it or whatever. Like just because you can't figure it out now doesn't mean it's bad. I'm not saying that like that's what you thought. This isn't a lesson for you. This is like a good takeaway from this thing in general. Like a lot of the times I found myself being like, oh shit, and just like wanting to get rid of it. For me at least, one of the hardest things about writing and just about life is letting something unfinished that I'm not moving towards sit. Like having, some chaff sitting on the counter, so to speak. Like having this thing that's unmolded, you don't know what to do with it, it feels unfinished, and is almost like a reminder that, you couldn't quite hack it, you don't have the right ideas yet, whatever, and just letting it be there. Not as like a reminder, oh, you should sit down and write, oh, you should do this, or you're not good enough, or whatever. Just let it be there for you to kind of like, kind of get whimsical about and like, kind of just ponder for a moment occasionally. Because sometimes eventually it will come back to you being able to do it. Maybe never it will, and it will just be there. But like having something to think about and just kind of mull over at various times, whether for that idea or other ones in the future, it helps your brain work in a different way. It's kind of like allowing yourself to be bored, right? Like you think differently when you're not constantly being, your brain is not being provoked by ideas or, something to do. When you let yourself sit and be bored, it allows your brain to work in a very different way. It allows you to solve certain problems that you would never be able to solve if you like looked at it. It's kind of like going cross-eyed when you're looking at one of those like 3D pictures or whatever. Is you need to like let your focus not be so like tight and just kind of let it loosen so that the thing can kind of come out. Anyway, hopefully that rambling made some amount of sense. But fun teachable moment.
I think it did.
Yay, we did it.
Yeah. But here I can could bounce back from my incredibly negative short story idea to something much happier.
From sadness to silly, what do we got?
Spy X Family or Spy Family. Some people pronounce X's in anime titles. I'm going to. So Spy X Family. Awesome. I love it. It just started this year, so it's like 9 episodes. And it has such a goofy premise. And it sounds like the start of a joke. So a super spy, a telepath, and an assassin all move in together. That's not far off from the actual setup. So the whole idea is that the super spy is given an assignment to effectively infiltrate a school. So to do so, he's enrolling a kid in said school. So he goes to find an orphan who is a telepath. She's like a science experiment, and so she can read minds. But she doesn't want to give it away because she doesn't want to be picked up by the people who experimented on her, so she tries to keep a low profile, despite reading minds. And so, like, she sees into the super spy mind that is effectively her adopted father now. And, like, he talks about, like, I may have to kill people. And she'll just go, and be alarmed because she's 6. Add in that he needs to get a wife to help maintain a cover. And so his wife is someone named Yor, who is an assassin, who basically needs to get a husband to kind of keep a low profile because people are suspicious of single women in this day and age. Because it's, like, around things like Cold War kind of era. And fucking hijinks ensues because they're so dysfunctional. And it's so great because, like, the main character, is his spy name is like his code name is Twilight, and so but he goes by
Jim
Lloyd Forger is his cover name in this.
Lloyd Forger.
I love that his fucking name is Forger.
Also,
like,
Lloyd is just a great. I don't know why, but phonically, that's a great first name to have for the last name Forger.
It's excellent. But like he's like, I have dismantled terrorism circles without fear, but this truly concerns me. He'll have like moments like that. It's so fucking funny. And like at one point he walks in on something and he just goes, anxiety. Hello, my old friend. It's so fucking funny. Like, it's so funny and got some of the best, like, kind of heartwarming moments. It's great. It's just delightful. And Anya, who is the telepathic kid, is just perfect. Like, the way they draw some of her kind of derpy faces, outstanding. I could not wreck the show enough if you just want something light and goofy to enjoy. It's so much fun.
So you touched on something that's kind of funny there that reminded me of another great like writing platitude, which is all good ideas start with what if. And like that, it sounds like the show Spy Family does exactly that. It's like, what if, set up, circumstance and then have fun with it. It's like that's such a pure way of looking. Like it's such a boilerplate example of that, of like 100%. That's the way it started out. It didn't start off, with like circumstances happening. It started off with like the base circumstance. Like, what if, we had this happen, then this happened, this happened. It's like, okay, and then what? Well, then we do this and this and this and this. But like, you start with that core concept of just bananas, and you just get to go from there. It's like so great.
Yeah,
I
couldn't recommend it enough. It's wonderful. It's just so much fun.
I literally last night was going through Hulu and I was like, for whatever reason, I thought I heard something about it, seen something about it. And so I was like, I'll add that to my favorites. And it's so awesome this morning to hear you say that I like accidentally made a great choice. So I'll have to watch that after this pod is over. Awesome. All right. So I've got a anti-rec and a rec this week. Which one you want first?
Well, let's go bad then good. Get out the beaten bat.
So Minx isn't a bad show. I don't know if it was somewhere under
You're not
budget.
Ugly.
Yeah. You're not ugly, but I don't want to take you to prom. So Minx is a show written about character who wants to is a pure feminist, wants to remake like, and kind of like make a women's magazine, all like
Okay.
Gloria Steinem with is that Miss Magazine? Shit, I'm sorry
I
if
have
I'm
no,
sorry.
I have no clue. I'm the
I
wrong
should know the
person
answer
to
to that
ask.
question. I've definitely done some
So
research on
so
Gloria
it's your
Steinem.
fault. Okay.
It is all my fault. Anyway, it's a kind of Gloria Steinem stand-in. She ends up like wanting to make this magazine. Ends up at like a weird business convention. Ends up talking to a porn mag producer, and they end up working together and creating somehow both of their magazines at the same time. It's fucking weird.
All right.
That's not the problem with the show. The what if creation spot is good, I think. It's the way it's delivered. So a lot of the episodes are somewhere between too short and rushed, and it really just depends on which one it is. Because there's another show that I recently had this problem with, where they just don't let the moment sit. Because some of the power, they just like, it really is having a motive weight. Sometimes you gotta let stuff breathe. Like, one of my biggest qualms with season 1 of was not Avatar, but Korra, is she loses her powers, in the same episode gets them back. We don't, as an audience, have that moment, that end credits thing to go, holy fuck. And like, even if we go on to the next episode, it sits.
I will give a small cop out to Legend of Korra. They never knew if they were getting renewed.
Yeah, but leaving a cliffhanger is the best way to get renewed, because it's the best way to drum up, audience investment. If I don't know what's going to happen next, I'm a lot more interested in watching than if it's a closed circle. I understand, like, there's also a bunch of other things that go into that. The execs might have wanted it to be, the people that like made the show. I don't fucking know. But that's my qualm with that. And that's my kind of qualm with this, is there's so much of the episodes that they don't let tension sit for long periods. They don't end with a cliffhanger, I think, like, ever. I'm surprised that I finished the show. There's so much of the show. I think at one point I was like, fuck it. There's like 2 episodes left. I'll just finish this. Whatever. The idea's there. It's the execution and the timing that is bad. And like, that's it's kind of like it's a heartbreaking problem, because I think the idea of what the show is trying to do and exploring this feminist ideal in a real world, which I really do appreciate, is that the character runs into her kind of foil later on in the show. And this is like one of the better moments, and at least for me, as, jaded white guy who hates all of this like preaching without realism that happens in this world by like the kind of left of like, these are problems. Like, all right, how the fuck do you solve them? It's like, we wear Birkenstocks. It's like, that's not going to fucking solve anything. And it's like the realistic world approach of this. The character knows how a lot of the world works. She, graduated college. She's very well read, very educated, very driven. And so a lot of that is like, that is the core of the show. And there are good bits of the core that I really do like. And at one point she goes to college and she's trying to sell people on her magazine. And she talks to this like hyper left feminist group at like Berkeley equivalent.
Sure.
And like, to the opening shot of this circumstance is amazing. She gets introduced. She's wearing like a, women's professional dress at that time, which was like a skirt, I think, or something like that. And she's in this room with a bunch of girls that are wearing jeans, and they're sitting cross-legged with a skirt. Can't exactly sit cross-legged unless you want to give them a gander, if you know what I mean. So she's like already, sits down. It's awkward. It's like, oh, this is really good writing. It's like such a great, circumstance building, like imagery to show like, unwelcome, like one versus the mass kind of thing. And then it's interactions with the group moving forward is very much like kind of what I have a problem with in our society, which is like, it's a bunch of people that are going, yeah, but that's like not cool. That's not very feminist. It's like, yeah, but like, this is the way the world works. I'm sorry you don't realize that yet. And she kind of like has a moment and breaks down and freaks out on him. Sadly, that's like a very kind of like standout moment in the show. A lot of the problems aren't so well addressed. They're not discussed. A lot of the problems are just kind of like thrown at the wall and be like, this is like, yeah, but you didn't let it sit. You didn't explain it well. This is kind of coming out of left field. Like, there's a lot of just like, It feels like if they put a lid on the mixer, on the blender for this milkshake, let it puree a little longer, maybe chose better ingredients, it would have come out a lot more concise. But they kind of just let the top off of the blender, and so shit comes out in weird spots. It feels kind of forced and just bizarre, and that's like one of the bigger down problems as far as I'm concerned with the show. I think the heart is in the right place. I think the execution and the timing was just kind of bad. On the flip of that, to go with the good beaten bat, if that's a word.
It is now.
It is now. We made it. Atlanta is, if you haven't watched this show, after this podcast, wait for like 10 more minutes, 5 more minutes, go watch that. This is like one of the best shows of all time. I'm really surprised that I've never wrecked it up until this point. This show knows exactly how to wait. It knows exactly how to leave stuff unfulfilled and like you kind of feeling like unrequited. Like you're just like, wait, but it, oh. And it's just like sitting there, not quite finished yet, because that's the way the world is. And like there's so much. Atlanta might be the best balance of realism with like just like it shows realistic feelings and circumstances through a surrealist lens. It might be the most out there while being on the planet show that I think has ever existed, while simultaneously addressing, you know, racism, sexism, otherness, and like, you know, the kind of black experience in society, as best I can tell from a fucking white man's perspective. You also have episodes starting off with characters robbing a like Burger King equivalent, and then the manager pulling out an AK-47 and returning fire. And that's relatively normal for this show. It is an insane artistic fever dream with its talons firmly grasping reality and pulling it into its bananas setting. It is so fucking amazing. I cannot even. Like, care to comment? You've watched some amount of Atlanta, correct?
Yeah. I've watched not a ton, but I watched a bit of like season 1. It's it very much knows where it. I'm trying to think of a good way to say this. The show knows what lane it's in.
Yep.
Like it knows how very much to navigate that lane. Like, and it, like you said, it's got things that I cannot imagine about the black experience of living in this country, because we're white. But Artemis, my wife, who is black, has been like, oh yeah, no, that's normal. Like, it's like, oh.
It kind of reminds me of another show, I'm sure I'll wreck at another point, of the way it handles kind of, it uses an absurd metaphorical stand-in for a real circumstance. So there's this show starring Jay Baruchel from How to Train Your Dragon called Man Seeking Woman, I think. I'm sure it'll be a rec for a future week. So in Man Seeking Woman and in Atlanta, they do this thing where they take a fictitious metaphor to show a reality. And sadly, again, being the black experience, this also just might be reality, which is insanely scary. So I think it's like in season 2, the main character Earn, played by Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, which is also created by him and written by his brother, and directed by Hiro Murai, who's also another, like, it's just mono bangers the whole cast down. It's another one of those amazing things about the show. But he has recently gotten into some money. He's wanting to take his girlfriend Van out for like a proper date to kind of, you know, show off and treat her right. So they go to see a movie, and he's just like, hey, you know, pulls out $100 bill to like buy a movie ticket for the two of them. And she's like, yeah, no, we can't break a bill that big. He's like, oh, okay, that's weird. I guess I'll use my credit card. And she's like, okay, well, we have to take a picture of it. And it just slowly dials up the fact that, oh, they're doing this because he's black. They can't not take his $100 bill. They just don't trust him. And this happens like constantly throughout the show. You know, the next guy in line's white, pulls out a $100 bill, is able to get, you know, they gave him change. Donald Glover's character asks to like, you know, hey, like they wouldn't take the guy doesn't even turn to him. He just pulls back his like jacket to reveal he's packing heat. He's just like got a gun on his waist. Donald Glover's like, what the fuck? And just like backs off. I'm hoping that's a dialed up reality. It's
probably a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But like I've heard stories of people getting declined service.
Yeah.
And shit like that. It's like, well, it is and it isn't.
Yeah. But it's you know, this, you know, and like that's probably the most tame, realistic one of these like situations. A lot of it is a lot more metaphorical, but it's that way of kind of taking reality, dialing it up, and putting it at an obtuse angle for you to understand. It allows you to step outside the moment so you can see the moment for what it is. Because if you dial it up, it just becomes like Roots, you know, 2.0. Where it's just like, man, they're treating these black guys like shit, what the fuck? And that's not the lane, I feel like anyway, that they wanted to go down. So they took this approach where you kind of see it from the surrealist lens, can understand the circumstance and the feeling, and then if you can unpack the metaphor, see the reality that it stands for. A more hyperbolic one from like Man Seeking Woman is he gets set up on a date with a friend, a sister's friend. And instead of having somebody be like super ugly that come in and be like, oh, grossed out, and then you're kind of judging the character, it's a literal troll that shows up to his blind date. He's like, what the fuck? Like she falls out of a dumpster, is like eating trash, just like looks like straight from Lord of the Rings troll. He's like, dude, what the fuck? She's a troll. And it's just like, she's not that bad. You know, she might live under a bridge and eat trash, but, you know, she's got a good heart. It's just like they fully like dial up the, you know, bananas metaphor that is the reality of the circumstance and like allows it to play out. And so you don't judge the character, but you can understand from the perspective and enjoy the hilarity of the bananas. And so that's kind of what this show gets to do with its approach. Also, it's so well written that it goes off on what I'm assuming, and don't interpret it as non-racial diatribes, and just kind of gets to tell these awesome stories that I don't think any other show could, because they're not talented enough and they haven't set up the sphere that is, you know, Atlanta. Highly recommend. Also, while I'm just pontificating about what I love, my song rec this week is Keep This Place Beautiful by Brick and Mortar. I cannot get the song out of my head. I've listened to it probably 20 times this week. And probably 20 times the week before. Is it profound? Maybe. Is it a banger? God damn, yeah. Just get in there. Love it. Don't try to break it down. Just enjoy its goodness. Got any else? You got any goodness to drop onto peeps this week?
Not for the musically inclined. Probably not.
Well, maybe we should drop them with this outro then. Tell them to get out there, watch those shows we wrecked.
Because that is our episode. So, thank you all very much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed it, please feel free to
like,
comment,
share,
and subscribe.
And don't forget, new episode of Super Pros Bros comes out the first and third Saturday of every month. Bye.